A United States Air Force medical facility ran a clinical trial on toenail fungus. The treatment was not a new drug. It was not a proprietary compound. It was Vicks VapoRub. 83.3% of patients improved. The treatment cost under $10. The prescription alternative runs $900 per course. That study was published in 2011. It has never been repeated. No pharmaceutical company funded a follow-up. No one ever will. Right now, Americans spend over $50 buying separate products for congestion, muscle pain, fungal infections, cracked skin, and insect bites. Every single one of those functions exists inside one jar. That jar costs between $1 and $5. The company that manufactures it also sells you the expensive alternatives. That is not a coincidence. That is a business model. Today you learned 15 documented uses for that jar. You learn the science behind each one, and you learn why no corporation will ever tell you this. Welcome to this channel. This is the place where we recover knowledge that used to be common sense. Not alternative medicine, not fringe science, practical, documented, exposed information that someone decided was more profitable to bury than to share. If you would rather know the truth and spend $5 than stay uninformed and spend $50, you are in the right place. This is not anti-medicine. This is pro-awareness. Hit subscribe. Not for me. For the next time an industry tries to sell you something your grandmother already had in her cabinet, because this story starts in 1894 with a pharmacist, a sick child, and a jar of grease in Selma, North Carolina. His name was Lunsford Richardson. He was a pharmacist in Greensboro, originally from Selma. His brother-in-law was Dr. Joshua Vick, and Richardson worked in Vick's pharmacy, learning the trade from the ground up. When his own child fell ill with croup, Richardson did what pharmacists of that era did. He experimented. He combined menthol, camphor, and eucalyptus oil into a petroleum base. These were not random ingredients. Camphor had been extracted from the camphor laurel tree in Japan and Taiwan for centuries. Asian herbal traditions had documented its use for respiratory relief, pain, and inflammation long before Western medicine gave it a classification. Menthol came from mint plants cultivated across Asia and Europe for generations. Eucalyptus oil had been used by Aboriginal Australians and later adopted into European pharmacology. Richardson was not inventing, he was combining. He was pulling from centuries of accumulated herbal knowledge and putting it into a shelf-stable form that any household could afford. By 1905, he had a commercial product. He called it Vicks Croup and Pneumonia Salve, named after Dr. Vick. In 1912, he rebranded it Vicks VapoRub. That name stuck. Then came 1918, the Spanish flu, the worst pandemic in modern history. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Doctors had nothing. Families were desperate, and Vicks VapoRub sales exploded. In a single year, revenue jumped from $900,000 to $2.9 million. Richardson had also pioneered something unusual for the time. He mailed product samples directly to households. Some historians credit him with helping invent direct mail marketing. His formula and his business sense built an empire. Here is the part they do not teach you. Lunsford Richardson died in 1919. He did not survive the very pandemic that made his product famous. His son, H. Smith Richardson, took over. The company grew across 5 continents. It reached more than 70 countries. Annual production eventually hit 3.78 million liters. For over a century, this product sat in medicine cabinets around the world. Mothers in Mexico, grandmothers in the Philippines, families across the American South communities in Colombia. They all used it for far more than chest colds. They used it for pain, for fungus, for insects, for skin. And none of them needed a study to tell them it worked. They had something better. They had generational proof. Richardson's formula worked because of what was in it. And what is in it is far more powerful than the label admits. What I am about to walk you through is the surface layer. The published studies, the ingredient breakdowns, the cross-cultural documentation behind this video represent dozens of hours of research. The full file is in the vault. The vault is where we keep the deep research for every investigation this channel produces. No fluff, no filler, just sources, protocols, and the information you will never find in a 30-second commercial. Link is in the description. But stay right here, because what comes next is the scientific proof that explains why every single one of those 15 uses actually works. Let us open the jar. There are 3 ingredients the FDA classifies as active. Camphor at 4.7 to 4.8%. Eucalyptus oil at 1.2%. Menthol at 2.6%. Then there is petrolatum, the petroleum jelly base. Most people think it is just a carrier. It is not. It functions as an occlusive barrier, locking moisture into skin and creating an environment that suffocates surface fungi. It is doing therapeutic work while being classified as inactive. But the real story is thymol. Thymol is derived from thyme oil. It appears on the label as an inactive ingredient. That classification is one of the most important details in this entire investigation. In 2003, a study published in Phytotherapy Research tested the compounds found in Vicks VapoRub against 16 different fungal strains. 16. That includes trichophyton mentagrophytes. That includes trichophyton rubrum, Candida species, Aspergillus species. Thymol showed broad-spectrum antifungal activity. A 2016 study in food chemistry confirmed thymol's antimicrobial properties across multiple applications. The ingredient Procter Gamble does not even bother to call active is arguably the most pharmacologically significant antifungal compound in the entire formula. Read that again. The most powerful ingredient in the jar is the one they label as inactive. Now take camphor. Published bioassay data confirms camphor functions as a mosquito deterrent. It activates specific neurological receptors in insects that trigger avoidance behavior. It is also a counter-irritant, which means it creates a mild inflammatory response on the skin surface that overrides deeper pain signals. That is why it works on sore muscles. Eucalyptus oil has documented antifungal properties against common dermatophytes. The Environmental Protection Agency has registered oil of lemon eucalyptus, a related compound, as a biopesticide repellent. The Centers for Disease Control lists it among recommended insect repellents. Menthol activates a receptor called TRPM8. This is the cold-sensing receptor in human skin. When menthol binds to it, your nervous system registers a cooling sensation, even though no temperature change has occurred. That is the mechanism behind its use in headache relief. A 2015 review of menthol for headaches examined studies using concentrations between 6 and 10%. VapoRub contains 2.6%. That difference matters, and I will address it honestly in a moment. But the mechanism is real. The receptor activation is documented. Now, here's the study that ties it all together. 2011, Malcolm Grow Medical Center. That is the United States Air Force's medical facility at Joint Base Andrews. A family medicine practice there enrolled 18 patients with onychomycosis, toenail fungus. Patients applied Vicks VapoRub directly to affected nails daily for 48 weeks. The results: 27.8% achieved full clinical cure. 55.6% showed partial clearance. Combined positive response rate. 83.3%. The study was published. It was peer-reviewed. It was conducted by military physicians with zero commercial incentive, and the manufacturer never acknowledged it, never funded a follow-up, never ran a larger trial. Ask yourself why. The answer is not complicated. It is arithmetic. A course of oral terbinafine, the standard prescription antifungal, costs between $780 and $900. Topical cyclopyrox runs around $200. Vicks VapoRub costs under $10. If you replace toenail fungus treatment alone, you eliminate hundreds of dollars in pharmaceutical revenue per patient. Now multiply that across 15 uses. Muscle pain relief products, dedicated insect repellents, specialized skin creams, acne spot treatments, cracked heel balms. If one $5 jar replaces even half of those, you are looking at $50 to over $100 in lost sales per household per year. Procter Gamble acquired Richardson Vicks in 1985. The context matters. It was a hostile takeover battle. Unilever was also bidding. P&G won. They absorbed the brand into a portfolio that already included Olay for skincare. They had pain relief products. They had personal care lines across dozens of categories. P&G generates over $80 billion in annual revenue. Their business model depends on you buying separate products for separate problems. A $5 jar that solves 15 problems is not an asset to that model. It is a threat. This is not conspiracy. This is incentive structure. No one needed to hold a secret meeting. No one needed to sign a suppression order. The quarterly earnings report does the work automatically. You do not fund studies that prove your cheapest product replaces your most expensive ones. You do not advertise off-label uses that cannibalize your own portfolio. You simply stay quiet, and you let the knowledge die with the grandmothers who carried it. If you have made it this far, you are not a casual viewer. You are the kind of person who follows evidence even when it leads somewhere uncomfortable. That matters. Subscribe if you have not already. Share this with someone who needs it. The Vault link is in the description for the full research file. Now stay here, because before I give you the protocols, I owe you the honest truth about the limits. I am going to be direct with you. This is not a miracle product. It is an underutilized product. There is a difference. And respecting that difference is what separates this channel from hype. The USAF toenail fungus trial enrolled 18 participants. That is a small sample. It is a legitimate pilot study, not a definitive clinical trial. The results are real, but they need replication at scale, replication that no one will fund. The combined active repellent concentration in VapoRub is approximately 8.5%. The CDC recommends a minimum threshold of 10% active ingredient for reliable insect repellent protection. VapoRub falls below that line. It works. Published data from a Colombian study on Zika prevention in PLEUS neglected tropical diseases documented real-world repellent use, but it is not as effective as a dedicated DEET-based product. Menthol for headaches has been studied at 6 to 10% concentrations. VapoRub contains 2.6%. The mechanism is valid. The dose is lower than tested. Results may vary. Stretch mark reduction is anecdotal. I have found no peer-reviewed study confirming it. The feet application method for cough suppression is widely reported, but not conclusively explained. Now the safety warnings. Camphor is toxic if ingested. Never eat this product. Never apply it inside the nostrils. Nasal application can cause lipoid pneumonia from the petroleum base. Do not use on children under 2 years of age. It is toxic to cats. The petroleum base is flammable. Do not apply near open flames. For acne-prone skin, the petrolatum base is comedogenic. It can clog pores on facial skin. Use as a spot treatment only, not as a full face application. Those are the limits. They are real. Now, here is what it actually does and exactly how to use it. Medical applications first. For chest congestion, apply a thick layer to the chest and throat. Cover with a warm cloth. The camphor and eucalyptus vapors open airways through direct inhalation. Repeat every 6 to 8 hours. A jar replaces a $12 vapor therapy product. For muscle and joint pain, rub a generous amount into the affected area. The camphor acts as a counter-irritant. The menthol triggers TRPM8 cooling receptors. Apply 2 to 3 times daily. This replaces topical pain creams costing $8 to $15 per tube. For toenail fungus, follow the Air Force protocol. Apply with a cotton swab directly to the affected nail. Once daily, minimum 48 weeks. You're looking at 27.8% full cure and 55.6% partial improvement based on the published data. 1 jar lasts months. Compare that to $900 for oral medication. For headaches, apply a small amount to the temples and forehead. The menthol activates cold receptors. Relief is typically reported within 15 to 30 minutes. This replaces specialized headache balms costing $6 to $10. For earaches, place a small amount of VapoRub on a cotton ball. Rest it gently at the outer ear opening. Do not insert into the ear canal. The vapors provide mild analgesic relief. This is a comfort measure, not a treatment for infection. For bruise recovery, apply a thin layer over the bruised area. The camphor increases surface blood flow. Menthol reduces pain perception. Apply twice daily. For minor cuts and abrasions, apply a thin layer after cleaning the wound. The thymol and camphor provide antimicrobial coverage. The petrolatum creates an occlusive barrier. This replaces antibiotic ointments costing $5 to $8 per tube. For acne spot treatment, apply a tiny amount to individual blemishes only. The thymol and eucalyptus oil provide antimicrobial action. Do not apply broadly to the face. The petrolatum base will clog pores. For cracked heels, apply a thick layer to clean, dry feet at night. Cover with cotton socks. The petrolatum locks in moisture. The camphor and menthol increase local circulation. Repeat nightly. Results visible within 1 to 2 weeks. This replaces specialized heel balms costing $8 to $12. For stretch marks, this is anecdotal. Some users report improvement with nightly application to affected areas. I have no peer-reviewed study to confirm. Use at your own discretion. For splinter removal, apply a thick layer over the splinter site. Cover with a bandage. Leave for several hours. The petrolatum softens the surrounding skin, often allowing the splinter to work itself out or making extraction easier. Now survival applications. For mosquito repellent, apply to pulse points, wrists, neck, ankles, behind the ears. The camphor and eucalyptus create a deterrent vapor zone. Reapply every 2 to 3 hours. The Colombian Zika study documented this use among vulnerable populations. It is below the CDC's preferred threshold but functional in the field. In a grid-down scenario, a single jar provides weeks of repellent coverage. A dedicated repellent costs $8 to $14 and runs out faster. Household uses. For squeaky door hinges, apply a small amount to the hinge pin. The petrolatum base lubricates metal on metal contact. This replaces specialty lubricants costing $4 to $6. Pet management. Apply VapoRub to surfaces where you want to deter cats or dogs from scratching or marking territory. The menthol and eucalyptus scent is a natural deterrent for most animals. Do not apply to the animal itself. Cats are especially sensitive. Camphor is toxic to cats if ingested. Apply only to furniture or surfaces. 15 uses. 1 jar. Under $5. Now step back and see the full picture. In 1894, a pharmacist in North Carolina combined ingredients that Japanese herbalists, Asian healers, Aboriginal Australians, and European apothecaries had used for centuries. He put them in a jar. That jar survived the worst pandemic of the 20th century. It reached 70 countries on 5 continents. Grandmothers in Mexico rubbed it on their grandchildren's chests. Filipino families kept it in every medicine cabinet. Colombian communities used it to ward off mosquitoes carrying Zika. African American families in the rural South passed down application techniques like recipes. Consumer Reports documented the persistence of these traditions in Hispanic households. None of these people waited for a clinical trial. They had something that no pharmaceutical company can manufacture: generational trust. The secret was never hidden, it was replaced. An entire system of practical household knowledge, passed from grandmother to mother to child, was quietly substituted by a consumer economy that profits from its absence. Every specialized product on your shelf is an answer to a question that was already solved for less money, with 1 jar. This product is legal everywhere. It requires no prescription. It is available in virtually every pharmacy on earth. It costs less than a cup of coffee. And now you know what it does. Send this to one person who spends $50 a month on products they do not need. That is how this knowledge survives, not through institutions, not through corporations, through people like you who refuse to let it disappear. Next week, we open the vault on another product sitting in your house right now, one that an entire industry has spent decades trying to make you forget. You are not going to want to miss it.